Among the many memorable figures in Charles Dickens's Oliver Twist, Nancy stands out as one of the most complex, tragic, and morally ambiguous. Unlike Oliver, the innocent child who embodies purity, or Fagin, who represents manipulative corruption, Nancy inhabits a liminal space between virtue and vice. As a young woman who has lived much of her life among criminals, she is deeply compromised by circumstance, yet she possesses a moral core that sets her apart from the rest of Fagin's gang. Through Nancy, Dickens explores themes of morality, redemption, gender, class, and social determinism. She is both a victim of her environment and an agent of choice, a character who forces readers to reckon with the harsh realities of Victorian society. Role in the narrative. Nancy's primary narrative function lies in her connection to both Oliver and Bill Sikes, the brutal thief who dominates her life. At first, Nancy seems little more than another one of Fagin's pawns, complicit in luring Oliver back into the gang after his brief rescue by Mr. Brownlow. However, Dickens gradually deepens her portrayal, showing her divided loyalties and capacity for compassion. Nancy is instrumental in saving Oliver. Though she initially helps Sikes and Fagin exploit the boy, she becomes increasingly protective of him, recognizing in Oliver the innocence that she herself has lost. In a pivotal moment, she defies Sikes and risks her own life by secretly meeting with Rose Maylai to reveal the plot against Oliver, and to provide information that could free him from the gang's clutches. This act of betrayal against her criminal associates marks her turning point. She chooses to protect virtue even while knowing the choice will doom her. Her tragic death at the hands of Sikes serves as the novel's most violent climax. Nancy's murder is not only the narrative's darkest moment, but also the most emotionally charged. By sacrificing herself for Oliver's sake, Nancy secures his safety while sealing her own fate, embodying Dickens's theme that redemption often comes through suffering. Symbolic significance. Nancy's symbolic significance within Oliver Twist is multilayered. She embodies the contradictions of Victorian society, particularly the intersections of morality, gender, and class. Dickens portrays Nancy as a fallen woman, a Victorian euphemism for women who engaged in prostitution or lived outside the bounds of respectability. Nancy represents a marginalized figure, a woman whose social fall is less a matter of choice than of circumstance. She symbolizes the way poverty, lack of education, and exploitation funnel women into lives of degradation. Nancy also symbolizes the possibility of redemption. Despite her sins and compromises, her final actions, risking her life to protect Oliver, grant her a form of moral victory. She demonstrates that even those who seem lost to vice can still act selflessly and nobly. In this sense, Nancy becomes a Christ-like figure, achieving a form of salvation through her sacrifice. Nancy's relationship with Bill Sikes symbolizes the cycle of violence and domination. Her devotion to Sikes, despite his brutality, reflects the entrapment of women in abusive relationships. Symbolically, she becomes a representation of female suffering under patriarchal and social oppression, an image that would have resonated deeply in Dickens's time. Nancy is one of Dickens's most psychologically nuanced characters. Unlike many of his figures, who embody clear moral archetypes, Nancy resists simple categorization. Her dialogue and behavior reveal an inner struggle between loyalty and conscience, vice and virtue. Dickens portrays her as a complex character, marked by contradictions. She is both tender and hardened, courageous and fearful, and submissive yet defiant. These tensions humanize her in ways few of Dickens's early characters achieve. Broader implications. Through Nancy, Dickens highlights the crushing power of environment and circumstance. Unlike Oliver, who is miraculously preserved by chance and kindness, Nancy's life trajectory demonstrates how poverty and neglect often leave no room for escape. Her story underscores Dickens's larger argument about social reform. Without intervention, countless children would share Nancy's fate. Nancy exposes the moral hypocrisy of Victorian society. Respectable readers may pity her, but within her world, she is stigmatized and condemned for her fallen status, while men such as Fagin and Sikes, whose crimes are more violent, escape moral judgment until much later. Dickens draws attention to the way women bore disproportionate blame for sexual transgressions, and the social stigma that followed them. Nancy raises challenging questions about redemption. Dickens allows her to die without earthly reward. Her sacrifice goes unrecognized by society. Rose Maylai and Mr. Brownlow, who benefit from her courage, cannot rescue her from her environment. This suggests Dickens's awareness of the limits of charity in addressing systemic issues. Nancy's redemption is moral, not social. She achieves dignity in death, but society denies her dignity in life. Nancy's portrayal reflects the powerlessness of women in Dickens's world. She is economically dependent on men like Fagin and Sikes, emotionally enslaved to Sikes, and socially excluded from respectability. Dickens thereby critiques the patriarchal structures that leave women vulnerable to exploitation and abuse. In giving Nancy moral strength within this oppression, Dickens elevates her as a tragic heroine, but he also points to the need for structural change. Her presence forces readers to confront the novel's central moral question. Why does Oliver, born into similar deprivation, remain untainted while Nancy perishes? The answer lies not in inherent virtue, but in circumstance and chance, underscoring Dickens's critique of social inequities. Conclusion. Nancy is a character of profound complexity in Oliver Twist. Narratively, she is the bridge between Oliver's world of innocence and the criminal underworld of Fagin and Sikes, ultimately sacrificing herself to protect the child she recognizes as everything she once was but could never remain. Symbolically, she embodies the fallen woman, the possibility of redemption, and the victimization of women within an oppressive society. On a broader level, Nancy highlights Dickens's critique of social determinism, gender inequality, and moral hypocrisy in Victorian England. Far from being a mere secondary character, Nancy emerges as the emotional heart of Oliver Twist. Her story reminds readers that even in the darkest corners of society, humanity, compassion, and moral courage can survive. In the tragedy of her life and death, Dickens delivers one of his most searing critiques of society's failures to protect its most vulnerable.